All right, welcome back to If My People Bible reading. This will be part 15 in the book of Job. We're nearing the end, and the Father, Abba Father, Yahweh, is about to speak. So we'll begin in chapter 37 of Job, and it'll be verse 10. The breath of Elohim produces ice, and the broad waters become frozen. He loads the clouds with moisture. He scatters his lightning through them. At his direction, they swirl around over the face of the whole earth to do whatever he commands them. He brings the clouds to punish men, or to water the earth and to show his love. Listen to this, Job. Stop and consider Elohim's wonders. Do you know how Elohim controls the clouds and makes his lightning flash? Do you know how the clouds hang poised, those wonders of him who is perfect in knowledge? You who swelter in your clothes when the land lies hushed under the south wind, can you join him in spreading out the skies, hard as a mirror of cast bronze? Tell us what we should say to him. We cannot draw up our case because of our darkness. Should he be told that I want to speak? Would any man ask to be swallowed up? No one can look at the sun, bright as it is in the skies, after the wind has swept them clean. This is exactly how Satan would talk to you. You know, you're not good enough. You're not good enough to be with the Father. Satan's. This is all common here. Just you're gonna find this as we go through this Bible. Satan basically comes down to two things. He wants you to think you're a dog. He wants you to think you're an animal, just like any other animal on the face of the earth, and that animals are just as important as you in the continuation of life, and that some people, even today, the way young people do today, it started back in the Roe versus Wade, that people can be totally just eliminated, but animals and doggies and puppies and horsies and all the little pretty things that 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 are nice to look at are more important than humans. That's how Satan. That's exactly how Satan, how Satan wants you to think. He wants you to think just like this Elihu guy, the young. Just as in the last days, they will, and some will, many will. They'll kill their own parents and their own grandparents because they think they're doing the right thing because their parents and grandparents aren't following the rules that they set forth. Freedom of speech, it means it's they push freedom of speech on you. Why? Because they believe that as long as you believe what they believe, that's freedom of speech. But if you do not believe what they believe, you have no freedom of speech. You are to be canceled. Cancel culture. Hmm. Interesting times we're living in. Now you about guess when I'm doing this, what time of year it is. Good grief. Or Hasatan wants you to think that you're a god. Oh, you're a god. You don't have to answer to the God because you're a god. And if you die, you will be a god, just like he's a god. Some Christian religions that call themselves Christians, keyword is call themselves Christians, claim the same thing. All from the synagogue of Hasatan. And back in the when the Bible was written, and Old and New Testament were finished, they call them synagogues. Um, Today we call them churches, synagogues of Satan, churches of Satan. The churches are very unfortunately to. And how many times have you been to any church anywhere in the world and actually gone through the book of Job, the whole thing? Fascinating, isn't it? It just fascinates me. So in verse 23, the Almighty is beyond our reach and exalted in power, and his justice and great righteousness he does not oppress. Therefore men revere him, for he does not have regard for all the wise at heart. So here's this guy saying he must know everything. And the father tells him what to say, right? Uh-oh. Now we're in chapter 38. The father's about to talk. He's about had enough of Job's three friends this little young punk, Elihu, thinks he knows everything. That's the fourth friend, so-called friends of Job and Job. So they got four guys and Job. Five men he's about to correct. Chapter 38. Then Yahweh answered Job out of the storm. And he said, um, who is this that darkens my counsel with words without knowledge? Brace yourself like a man. I will question you, and you will answer me. Where were you when I made the earth's foundation? Tell me if you understand. Who marked off its dimensions? Surely you know. Who stretched the measuring line across it? Huh? Who? Who? On what were its footings set? Or who laid its cornerstone? While the morning stars sang together and all the messengers shouted for joy, and who shut up the sea behind doors and when it burst from the womb, when I made the clouds its garment and wrapped it in thick darkness. Pay attention to this. It doesn't exactly come about to Genesis when we get to it, the creation of the earth, does it? Does it? That takes us back to Genesis 1 1. Genesis 1 1. Very important. So how do we know it happened just 1 1? Because it doesn't say hardly anything. Well, the Bible says that the end is revealed in the beginning. Well, how do you know that? Well, you got to get to the end. And when you get to the end in chapter 21 and 22 of Revelation, you find out the earth exists and there's no stars it depends on. There is no sun it depends on. There is no moon it depends on. There is no gravity it depends on. Now we go back to Genesis 1 1 and we understand what was there. And that's why we just don't want you to go crazy here. The Christians go way over here and they, what are we going to do because it doesn't match what we teach in our churches, our 30,000 denominations who don't get along, and the synagogues of the Orthodox and the Jewish synagogues. It doesn't teach what we say either. We go to the Talmud and the wise sages and the rabbis, and the Bible says don't go to the Talmud, don't go to wizardry and Kabbalah, and don't go to the wise rabbis. You'll notice that Yeshua, in his time on earth, when he was in human form, walking around in his first advent with his disciples, he did not go to the disciples' uh, leadership of that days, which was the Sadducees and the Pharisees and those in the temple. Did he? He went there on a few occasions, but he didn't go for their advice. Did he? And then he does give orders now and then, but that's talking about the government. That's about paying taxes. That has nothing to do with the faith of the Father. It has to do with man wants to collect taxes. Uh, Pay your taxes. Pay your tribute to Caesar. All right. Verse 9. When I made the clouds its garment and wrapped it in thick darkness, when I fixed limits for it and set its doors and bars in place, and when I said, this far you may come and no farther, here is what your proud waves halt. The oceans and the waves all do what the Father wants. So when we have floods and we have hurricanes and we have situations like that, that's nature as the Father wants it to be for its purpose. So if anybody wants to live on the ocean's edge without protecting themselves, without building a house on stilts, I happen to live on the ocean, and I happen to live 30 feet up on a pillar of concrete and steel, 30 feet up. So if nature wants to play its course, have at it. But I don't build out on the ocean and expect the Father to protect me because I'm too stupid enough to know not to raise my house, right? Good grief. All right. Uh, Verse 12. Have you ever given orders to the morning or shown the dawn its place, that it might take the earth by the edges and shake the wicked out of it? The earth takes shape like clay under a seal. That's exactly how the earth is designed on plate tectonics. Hello, it's right here in Job. We continue on. Its features stand out like those of a garment. The wicked are denied their light, and their upraised arm is broken. And have you journeyed to the springs of the sea or walked to the recesses of the deep? By the way, those springs of the sea in the Atlantic and along the plates where it's uplifting there, where the water comes out of fresh water coming out of the ocean wasn't found and photographed and identified until 1968. And here it is, the book of Job, telling you about. So, how did this person talking, if he wasn't the father, go 12,000 feet down to look at the recesses of the deep where the water, fresh water, comes out and fills the ocean? Wow, another wow moment. Have you comprehended the vast expanses of the earth? Tell me if you know all this. What is the way of the boat of light, and where does darkness reside? And can you take them to their places? Do you know their paths of their dwellings? Surely you know, for you are already born. You have lived so many years. He's doing a little mocking right here. He's just saying, "Come on, let's do it." Verse 22. Have you entered the storehouses of the snow, or seen the storehouses of the hail, which I reserve for times of trouble, for days of war and battle? What is the way to the place where the lightning is dispersed, or the place where the east winds are scattered over the earth? And who cuts a channel for the torrents of the rain, and a path for the thunderstorm, to water a land where no man lives, a desert with no one in it, to satisfy a desolate wasteland and make sprout its grass? Anyone have been ever out west when it hasn't rained for a long time and it rains plentiful for about a week, you'll see desert flowers just bloom in the colors of the that area, just stunning to look at. Verse 28. Does the rain have a father? Who fathers the drops of dew? From whose womb comes the ice? Who gives birth to the frost of the heavens? When the waters become hard as stone, when the surface of the deep is frozen, surface of the deep is frozen. Antarctica and so forth. Um, wasn't known in those days for thousands of years. How did the book of Job get written with all this information unless the Father gave it to him? 31. It's getting interesting. Can you bind the beautiful Pleiades? Mentions of the Mazzaroth here. Can you loose the cords of Orion? Can you bring forth the constellations, or we call it the Mazzaroth, in their seasons, or lead out the bear and its cubs? North Star, Big Dipper, Little Dipper, all mentioned here in the book of Job at the beginning of written word. Can you raise your voice to the clouds and cover yourself with a flood of water? Do you send the lightning bolts on the way, and do they report to you? And here we are. Who endowed the heart with wisdom, or gave understanding to the mind? Who has the wisdom to count the clouds? Who can tip over the water jars of the heavens when the dust becomes hard and the clods of earth stick together? Do they hunt prey for the lioness and satisfy the hunger of the lions when they crouch in their dens or lie in wait in a thicket? Who provides food for the raven when its young cry out to Elohim and wander about for lack of food? Um, did it occur to you all that bird chirping all the time, and sometimes they make different kind of noises? Um, it just says here, who provides food for the raven, or just say put the word birds. Who provides food for the birds when it's their young cry out to Elohim and wander about for the lack of food? The Father knows where everything is going on anywhere on the earth, whether a human's there to witness it or not. Chapter 39. Do you know when the mountain goats give birth? Do you watch when the doe bears her fawn? Do you count the moths till they bear? Do you count the months? I'm sorry about that. Do you count the months till they bear? Um, the Father sets the sun for figuring out it's day and night, and He sets the moon out. Why? We don't worship the moon, and we don't once a month have a big celebration because the moon's here. It just means another month's gone by, and as an observance of this moon that's gone by, we don't worship it. Okay, we don't have a big gathering of people that all eat and jump up and down and play tambourines. We just say it's going to be September tomorrow. As a matter of fact, when we're doing this, it is going to be September 1 tomorrow. There's going to be a new month that come in. Did they call it September in those days? No. We'll get back to you the next part.